With the ongoing diplomatic standoff between India and Canada, India has now lashed out at Canadian PM Justin Trudeau and asked Canada to prevent the misuse of the freedom of expression to incite violence and prevent activities of extremist groups. As a response to Canada's repeated baseless allegations, India offered Canada 3 suggestions in the spirit of constructive dialogue and ripped into Prime Minister Trudeau's modus operandi of mudslinging without proof. Let's quickly, of course, take this conversation forward with Ambassador KP Fabian, Sanjeev Srivastava, foreign affairs expert with us as well, and Joyita Basu. Before I start this conversation, in fact, let's quickly listen in to what is it that has happened.
We have serious reasons to believe that agents of the government of India could have been involved in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. And India's response is to kick out a whole bunch of Canadian diplomats by violating their rights under the Vienna Convention. That is of concern to countries around the world, because if a given country can just decide that their diplomats of another country are no longer protected, that makes international relations more dangerous and more serious. But every step of the way, we have tried to work constructively and positively with India, and we will continue to. And that means continuing to work with Indian government diplomats. This is not a fight we want to be having right now, but we will unequivocally always stand up for the rule of law.
No religious minority can freely live or practice its religion in Pakistan today. Its security agencies have nurtured and sheltered Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar for decades. These are but a few dreaded names from the annals of Pakistan's history of supporting terrorism. Pakistan's policies are directly responsible for the death of thousands of civilians around the world. Pakistan's obsession with India, while its population battle for their lives, livelihood and freedom, is an indication of the state's misplaced priorities. I would advise its leadership and officials to focus their energies on working for the benefit of their own population instead of baseless propaganda.
Okay, all right. We will try to pull out the correct soundbite there for what India said, but I'll just quickly take our guests over some of the comments that have been made. The 3 suggestions that India has made includes further strengthening of the domestic framework of Canada to prevent misuse of freedom of expression for inciting violence and disallow activities of groups which are promoting extremism. We've also asked Canada to strengthen legislative and other measures to effectively prevent attacks on places of worship of religious and racial minorities and address hate crimes and hate speech. And lastly, the 3rd suggestion from India to Canada has been putting an end to structural discrimination against children belonging to indigenous groups and address disparities in access to services by all children. Let me take this conversation. Let me open up with Ambassador KP Fabian, who's with us. Ambassador Fabian, India's been trying to make a point across to Canada for a very long time. What do you make of the suggestions that we've made now at the UNHRC? Because we could have, as Canada, as Pakistan, we've seen several other countries, they use that platform to often rant and rave against India. But India has taken another sort of methodology forward where we're saying, okay, let's give you some constructive feedback on what is it that you can do that would help us feel a little bit better about the condition of Indians in Canada and also on what is happening in Canada, because we have seen in the past Justin Trudeau not speaking, not uttering a single word on banners and flyers and posters being put up on his soil calling for the assassination of Indian ambassadors and the Indian Prime Minister.
Well, thank you. Canada is certainly at fault in not having acted promptly and appropriately when anyone on Canadian soil preaches violence against Indian diplomats. That is obvious. But I think we should see the whole thing in context. This is the so-called universal periodic review, which takes place at the United Nations Human Rights Council. And this time, Canada and 13 other countries their performance is being reviewed. And to my mind, India has made very appropriate and constructive suggestions. Now, as to what happens thereafter is a different matter. And I want to make one more point. I heard when you sort of, quoted Prime Minister Trudeau, she's saying that Canada is working constructively with India diplomatically. Well, if that is the case, I do welcome it, because I want to make this point. Neither country has, for a while, addressed this problem constructively, diplomatically, through diplomatic channels. Thank you.
Ambassador KP Fabian, if you could elaborate on that, sir. When you say neither country has used diplomatic channels effectively, what do you think, where do you think India has then faltered on that front? Because India says that it has been trying to put a very simple point across to Canada. How is it that they're unable to see the sort of Khalistani extremism that's taking place on Canadian soil? Imagine if the roles were reversed and there were posters put up of Canadian diplomats in New Delhi calling for their assassination. There was a poster put up of Justin Trudeau in New Delhi calling for his assassination. What exactly would Canada do?
Yeah, I get your point, and I am with you. But the point I was trying to make was different. When India asked Canada to remove 41 diplomats, and the reason given by India was that, I am quoting our External Affairs Minister from memory, that many Canadian diplomats have been interfering in India's internal affairs. Point number one. Point number two, that the Vienna Convention provides for parity in diplomatic representation. Now, if you read the Vienna Convention, there is no reference to parity. So that second argument is wrong. And as regards the first argument, you can't say many Canadian diplomats have been interfering in India's internal affairs. It is for you to internally list out the diplomats in question and ask for their removal. To make a vague general statement that many diplomats are interfering, no, that is not good diplomacy. That is the point I was trying to make.
So, Ambassador Fabian, then a follow-up on that, sir. You say that we should not have washed dirty linen in public, essentially, that we should have given a list of diplomats that we're uncomfortable with to Canada with some sort of proof. But that's exactly what the Canadian Prime Minister did. He stood up in Parliament and accused India of assassinating Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Well, let me put it this way. What Prime Minister Trudeau did was wrong, diplomatically and otherwise. That doesn't mean we should imitate him.
Okay, so you feel that that was an imitation of something wrong by India. I respect your opinion. Let me bring in Joyita Basu into the conversation as well. Joyita, what do you make of the sort of suggestions that India has made to Canada, and also to what Ambassador KP Fabian has said? He says that while whatever Canada did was wrong, that Justin Trudeau should not have stood up in the Parliament to make these sort of accusations against India. He says that India should not have gone ahead with what it did either, because then we're just replicating bad behavior. What do you feel about that?
Well, I think there's a difference between bad behavior and, as being assertive and basically ensuring that another country is not able to take care of your quote-unquote vulnerabilities and make use of it to ensure that you are on the back foot. I think that's all that India has done. It has basically preempted, ensured that Canada cannot make use of course, there is enough intelligence. Of course, the government is not going to talk about what exactly Canadian diplomats have been doing, but the fact of the matter is that they've been doing a lot of things, and it is well known, and it is inside India's rights, and it has nothing to do with Vienna Convention or about diplomatic rights and all. That is all part of the textbook. The fact of the matter is that Trudeau is playing, I'm going to use this word, playing this game politically for his own political gains.
Yes.
He is trying to make India a scapegoat on the altar of his own political ambitions, And at a time like this, and apart from the fact he feels slighted because of his treatment, I mean that he deserved that treatment if you ask me. He was no great Shakespeare and everybody was treated well, he was also treated well. The thing is that he is taking some kind of a revenge on it. So, for him Justin Trudeau is operating at a very petty level. If you look at his statement which he gave on the day of Diwali, he didn't say utter one word about Diwali greetings to the people of India, nothing like that. He was going hammer and tongs. Look at his body language, the way he is talking, it's all political for him. It was almost as if he is making a political speech. Now, when a man has dragged his country's foreign policy to the level of his petty domestic politics, how do you handle that man? Will you be sitting on your high moral high ground and say, listen, we will be nice people, let them do whatever they want us to do, we are superior to them? No, it does not work like that. Hit them and hit them hard, so hard that they remember it. You want to fix their education system which runs on we all know that, having that diplomatic presence in places like Punjab and all Chandigarh, what were they doing? That was one way of getting a lot of students. Now, if going to Canada becomes difficult for Indian students, which sector gets hurt the most? It is Trudeau that brought it upon Canada. Trudeau will have to pay a price for that. No, forget it. Forget that time about, where we would sit there and say, oh, very bad. We are nice people. We are not going to do it. We are going to do it. Yeah, we are going to do it in their face and we are going to hit them hard.
Right, absolutely. Sanjeev Srivastav, let me bring you to the conversation. What do you make of these developments between India and Canada? Like I said, India has taken a route of offering its grievances as suggestions to what Canada can do. Yes, of course, I'm sure our intention was to not just give suggestions to Canada. We were trying to make a larger point, but at least our diplomats did not sit at the UN and rant and rave against Canada, which is something that we've seen almost all countries do in the past. Nobody is using UN for any sort of constructive dialogue, but most people are simply using it as a platform to put their points across with no proof whatsoever.
Well, Devika, India is a responsible democracy, and we, whenever make statements at the international forums like United Nations, and in this particular case, United Nations Human Rights Council, we have also certainly given a very constructive suggestion. Though we have a lot of grievances with regard to Canada's bad behavior, which they are continuously and over again they are doing with us. But despite facing such kind of a behavior, we have certainly given a constructive suggestion to Canada, and now it is up to Canada whether they follow it or not. But yes, with regard to their side, if you look at the kind of allegations the Canadian Trudeau government is making, they are making blunders over blunders. And I completely agree with Joyita that this kind of statements are being made through this political prism. It's a politically motivated, absurd, baseless allegations which Prime Minister Trudeau is making time and again, precisely because his government is a minority government. And he wants to complete term which is there till 2025, till month of October, and after that till that time he wants to continue being a Prime Minister of India, even if it happens at the cost of a big vast relationship between the two democracies, that is India and Canada. So I think Justin Trudeau, for his selfish political motives, he is moving towards sacrificing this very big relationship, which is so unfortunate. Justin Trudeau, he always talks about international rules-based order, freedom of expression, freedom of assemblies, like big great values. But when it comes to taking action against various terrorist and extremist and criminal and elements which are very much there on the Canadian soil, he doesn't do any single thing. And instead of doing and taking some those strict actions which India had been urging to Trudeau government, he has made baseless quote unquote allegations. I would like to. We have discussed this many a times that anybody can make allegation on anybody, but where is the proof? Where is the evidence? And what is this word, quote unquote, credible allegation? That is beyond my comprehension. This kind of a word, if it is being used by a prime minister of a country, and that to a democratic country, which is so unfortunate to hear. So I think, this in this case, on Canadian side, if you look at, we are very constructive. As I said, we have given them some constructive suggestions, as you mentioned, Devika. 3 suggestions we have given to them, recommendations we have given. But on the other side, if you look at their statement being made from their side, I think they are clearly attempting very hard to keep appeasing Jagmeet Singh and his outfit, this New Democratic Party. Because of that support, he's running this government. And let me say one more point with regard to Vienna Convention. I humbly disagree with Ambassador Fabian sir here. Article 11.1 of Vienna Convention clearly says that if in the absence of any specific agreement as to the size of the mission, the receiving state may require that the size of the mission be kept within the limits considered by it to be reasonable and normal, unquote. So I think if you go through this Vienna Convention Article 11.1, precisely using that article, because there was no specific agreement between India and Canada with regard to a sizing of this diplomatic mission. Obviously, India wanted a parity, and also it is a fact, and a lot of evidences are there that what kind of intervention Canada was attempting to make with regard to our former protest, and the kind of statements came up from the Canadian side during that time, and also there are several other evidences which clearly suggest that they were attempting to interfere into the Indian politics just to gain some benefit and to appease the this kind of a pro-Khalistani so-called elements, terrorist and extremist elements in Canada. So I think India is very right in taking that step. And if you make any baseless allegation on a country which is a biggest democracy on the planet, fastest growing economy in the world, a country which believes in the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a country which believes in the idea of one family, one earth, one future, a country which believes in the idea of Sarve Bhavanti Sukhina, on that country, if you are making this kind of a very absurd, negative, criminal allegation, I think that is unacceptable. And India is very right in responding very hard against such allegations. And let me say very frankly here that had Canada not done that kind of a act against India, India may not have taken this kind of a step. The reason is quite simple.
Why would India take this sort of a step? You're absolutely right about that. Had Canada not done whatever it had done, and Canada absolutely refused to ever pay any heed to what India was saying, at the end of the day, our ambassadors feeling unsafe, our consulates being set on fire and being attacked, places of religion being attacked, posters being put up in gurdwaras, calling for assassination of diplomats, calling for the assassination of the foreign affairs minister, calling for the assassination of the prime minister. I'm sorry, what country does all of this ever happen in? It was absolutely unacceptable what was happening on the ground in Canada. And of course, India also, at the end of the day, would get frustrated with the fact that, listen, you're not doing anything. You're not taking any action against anybody who's responsible for this extremism, violence and hate crimes on your soil. And here you are telling India that we've, without any proof, without saying anything else to the world, you're literally accusing India of an extrajudicial killing on your soil. That's a big accusation to make against a country. And India has also said that it's happy to cooperate. I'm going to leave open a last question to our guests before we wrap this up, starting with Ambassador KP Fabian. Ambassador Fabian, where do you see now in the next few months India-Canada relations heading?
Yes, but before that, let me just make one or two points. Vienna Convention, I repeat, does not refer to parity, but the Vienna Convention permits the host country to regulate the number of diplomats sent by the other country. And that is done in a very simple way. As you know, for the head of mission, they have to seek the agrama. Okay, but for other officers, they have to ask for visa. And when they ask for visa, the host country has a choice either to give or not to give. That is how the Vienna Convention permits you to regulate the number of diplomats from the other country. But I repeat, There is no reference to parity. That is not there. Now, second point is that we said that many Canadian diplomats are interfering in India's internal affairs. The right thing would have been to list them, and let me make it very clear. We don't have to give any evidence to anyone. We simply have to tell Canada, listen, these are the diplomats who have interfered in our internal affairs. We are going to declare them PNG, but we can give you a chance to remove them in the next 48 hours. That is normally done.
Yes, but Ambassador Fabin, again, did Canada give India that opportunity?
About what?
When the Prime Minister stood in Parliament and accused India of an extrajudicial killing,
I said...
What exactly was Canada up to then?
No, I said what Trudeau did was absolutely wrong. Okay? But that doesn't mean for tit for tat, we should also do the wrong thing. That is the point. Now, as regards your question, where are we heading to? I take it that it is in the interest of both Canada and India to de-escalate and resolve this, because when India stopped issuing visa to Canadian passport holders, don't forget, there are hundreds of thousands of Indian diaspora having Canadian passport, and a young person studying in Montreal might want to get to Chandigarh because his grandfather was very seriously ill. I'm glad that we have sort of lifted partially. So I think what is important is to restore diplomacy, classical diplomacy, not make public statements, and we in India should stop demonizing Justin Trudeau. As I said, what he did was wrong. I don't approve of it, but there is no need to demonize him. Personalized attacks on foreign heads of state or heads of government is not part of good diplomacy.
Okay, all right. Joyita, how would you like to address what Ambassador Fabin has said, and where do you feel India-Canada relations are headed?
Well, India is not demonizing the Canadian Prime Minister at all. I don't remember hearing any statement from the Indian establishment or the Indian Prime Minister, Indian Foreign Minister. I don't remember hearing even a single statement, delivered with so much aggression and some kind of vindictiveness and assertion that Justin Trudeau has been delivering against India. It is Justin Trudeau. Sorry, sir, to disagree, but the thing is that Justin Trudeau is the one who has been demonizing India. Justin Trudeau is the leader who is demonizing our leadership. Justin Trudeau is demonizing everything that India stands for. India is not doing it. Okay, and number one. Number two, what sort of a country, what sort of a government is Justin Trudeau ruling, where a terrorist, a Pannun, that terrorist, he is actually giving threats like, after November 19th, from November 19th, the Sikh population should not travel by Air India. So the thing is, you see, and what action is he taking? Nothing, zero. These are open threats of terror that he is issuing. What is Justin Trudeau doing? So what is this high horse that Justin Trudeau riding? And if you are talking in terms of what India-Canada relations are headed, under Justin Trudeau, I don't think it will be going very far. So basically we have to see what all happens in the next 2 years, because Justin Trudeau, the next election is I think in 2025. Right now, Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau's combined poll numbers are lower than their opposition leaders' poll numbers. So fingers crossed, he may not come back to power. If he comes back to power, then India will have to work its way around him, do something. But let us not forget even for a second, India did not start this. It was Justin Trudeau who started it. But his fundamental mistake was that he thought India is a pushover, and also he thought he is a big power. I think he has been proved wrong on both counts, and that is why his aggression is increasing by the day. He is the one, again I am going to say, he is the one demonizing India. India is not demonizing him.
Okay, Sanjeev Srivastava, leaving the last word with you. I'd just like to understand, where do you feel India-Canada relations are headed?
Well, Devika, I think Justin Trudeau began it all, and he's the only one who can, end it all. And but unfortunately, he doesn't appear in that mood to do so. And reason is pretty straight and simple, and that he wants to, continue being the Prime Minister of India at the cost of India-Canada relationship. Obviously, I also do not see, as Joyita completely agree with her, that I do not see any improvement in the situation, the kind of diplomatic tension which is there between India and Canada till this government changes in the year 2025. And I completely deeply respect the kind of sentiments have been expressed by Ambassador Fabian sir, that we should not escalate this matter. Yes, India does not want to escalate. We never escalated. We never began it all, sir. But the only thing is that I think this for the various political narrow self-interest, he has chosen India as a soft target. But India has now proven that we are not pushover. We are not a soft target. And you cannot go away making this kind of allegation. This India is a new India. And one last point I would say here, that this new India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, has a zero tolerance approach towards extremism and terrorism. And we will not tolerate any form of terrorism in any form and manifestation wherever happening in the world. And whether it is Canada or the United Kingdom or Australia, United States of America and elsewhere, we are going to pursue them very, very hard, no matter what it takes. Well, because we are not, we have done enough toleration with terrorist acts, etc. But no, not now. Certainly, if you look at our stand on terrorism, we are very much standing with Israel at this point of time, because Israel is fighting a war against terrorism. And though we have a sympathy for the humanitarian crisis, but on the front of terrorism, there is not going to be any compromise. So I said that Canada must realize that this India is a new India, and this India does not tolerate such nonsensical behavior.
Right, absolutely. I thank all of our panelists for joining us to take this conversation on India-Canada forward.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.